Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kathleen Mathieson, the Program Director for Health Sciences at CGHS and ATSU, and I am happy to be here today with Dr. Stephanie McGrew. Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad to chat with you today.
Yes, absolutely. Same.
So, Stephanie, you are really a rock star alumna for CGHS. You have multiple degrees from different programs, and I really was curious about. Obviously, you had a good experience, I hope. So, I was curious about what inspired you to pursue multiple degrees from CGHS, and tell us about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So first, I would like to say it was just such an honor to be a part of CGHS. Not just the curriculum in general, but it felt like a community. Anytime I had a question, I could email somebody and they would direct me and guide me. So it didn't feel like I was siloed to being stuck to just one person. So that's definitely something that I like to say to start off with. But my journey with CGHS was really transformational because of the work that I do. That's really why I chose to pursue CGHS. They are intentionally focused on really allowing us to apply the learning that we were doing in real world situations. And so as a current professional going through the program, I was actually able to take what I was learning and applying it directly. And so that was, in theory, like one of the biggest components of why I really enjoyed the program and how I was learning and the pace in which I was learning.
Yeah,
It
that's
was so
great.
yeah, so that's and in all honesty, I also work at ATSU. So the
Yeah,
mission of the university really resonated with me.
yeah,
I feel like, you hear a lot of times people say the ATSU family, and I can honestly say that's how I feel. I might be one of the unique people to feel that way, but I definitely feel that you get this wraparound service when you are associated with the university, specifically with, the programs that I was a part of. And that's really what pushed me to wanting to be more involved and to kind of diving in, and that's really what allowed me to continue to grow and want to do more within the university.
yeah, that's great. And I feel the same way about the family aspect. I've been with the university for 20 years almost, and yeah, I think it's very very feels like a community and a family to me as well.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned a little bit about applying what you were learning in the classroom into your professional role. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your professional life and maybe some of the ways that you're learning in the classroom, some of the examples of how that transferred over?
Absolutely. So currently, right now, I'm the Assistant Director for Diversity and Inclusion at ATSU University. I oversee a lot of different components to our department. So I help heavily with recruitment and retention. We also do some cultural proficiency educational series for faculty, staff, and students across all of our campuses. But more importantly, another program that I oversee largely is our Dreamline Pathways program, which is a program that's focused on creating access to healthcare careers for K through 12 through undergraduate students across the country. So I'm very invested in healthcare. My undergraduate degrees were also health focused. So being able to utilize what I'm learning at CJHS, like I said, directly impacting the work that I do, not just at a university level, but across the country and communities across the country. I'm also a business owner here in the Kirksville area. So being able to focus those degrees helped me to elevate my approach on how I see work in general. It strengthened my ability to think more strategically, but also be able to evaluate things and also analyze that and be data driven. Also helped me. I always joke around with my peers that I'm a science dweeb because I love looking at that information. I love getting that data. Even with my clients, I'm a personal trainer, so I will document things because I want to plug it into a program and I want to build trends so that for me, science data really helps to drive decisions and to help, sometimes make the dots connect and really click. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's really what I do with all of my business. Like I said, I think people think I'm crazy because I'm like, I need the data. I need the data. So
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm right
yes,
there with you with the data. Yeah, evidence-based practice. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. So
great.
yeah, that really has allowed me to be pivotal and provide information even to my superior, and when they're asking me for information about the work that I'm doing, I can plug it in and I understand and know what it means. And
Yes.
so I think that's a huge, I would not have learned that any other way than through my program and with the data that I got to work with and how I was able to apply that and
Yeah.
present that to finish my degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, online learning is kind of a unique skill and a unique experience for some people, and you clearly have mastered it. What were your secrets to success as an online student and kind of, feeling connected and making sure you were self-motivated? What were some of your strategies?
Absolutely. So when it came to being successful as an online student while balancing life and a career, I'm going to be honest, I had to be very intentional. I think that discipline is something that is really hard to adapt, because what a lot of people don't know is I did my doctorate in MPH at the same time. And that was because ATSU was offering a grant for the MPH, but I'd already started my doctorate. And whenever I was talking to my advisor, they were saying like, oh, well, you can pause your doctorate and finish this. And I was like, and being school for like the next 10 years, I was like, I can't, I
Yeah.
can't do that. And so speaking with leadership and my peer and just putting that support around me for that time period, I had to be very, very, very intentional about just getting things done. I had to build systems that worked for me. I treated my coursework and other things like a standing schedule, like a standing meeting in my schedule. And I was very specific about protecting my time. It could be overwhelming at times, but I think that was the key. I know it was a shift with relationships with friends and family because I had to prioritize getting work done, or not staying out or going to things on weekends because I had to read and I had to prepare papers and I had to do this and that. And some people understood and got it. And of course, other people didn't. And so that was probably the hardest thing, because it was it was a few years that I'm going through this process. But I'm glad I did it. And it was also allowing me to be intentional about asking questions and reaching out to faculty when I was struggling or if I didn't understand anything. And in that process, I was able to build relationships with faculty and other peers within the CGHS community. So like I said, it was just really being intentional with my time. There is no really like cookie
Yeah,
cutter
I totally
answer.
agree. Yeah, you have to build in the time, and it sounds like you really empowered yourself to be successful. You were just very intentional about it,
Yes.
which
And I
is
had
which is
support.
awesome.
I think
Yeah.
and I understand, I'm in a unique position. I had support at home that was very supportive. I have a partner at home that would, Wednesdays would roll around. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to bed early. And he'd be like, don't you have to submit your, and I'm
That's
like,
great. Yeah, having
yeah,
someone to keep you accountable is great. Those
yes,
support systems.
yes, that's
Yeah.
the biggest part. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So the last question I wanted to ask you, the research component of the DHSC in particular can sometimes feel a little overwhelming for students, especially as they start that process or they are thinking about the degree, because research can be something that is a little overwhelming. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in the applied research project and kind of what were your strategies there for making that manageable?
Absolutely. So I do feel that the research project can feel intimidating, because that's how I felt as well going into it. But my biggest advice would be to choose a topic that you can connect with. I was also in a unique position that, like I said, I was doing my MPH at the same time. So I was doing my field research, or my like going and doing shadowing. And I was able to connect with a public health system in rural Missouri. And I was helping them doing some community surveys and doing all of that other stuff. So I was in a really unique position that I was already doing this just because I was interested in it. So I was able to utilize that same resource to do my applied research. And that aligned with my passion for the work that I wanted to do, and diving into public health and how I can bring that to the work that I do, not just professionally, but like I said, in my community, because I'm deeply invested in the community that I live in. So just breaking it up into manageable pieces, not being afraid to get that positive and negative feedback, because I know sometimes you start going down that road and you have tunnel vision. But like I said, connecting with faculty and staff that could say, I read this, like, let's hop on a Zoom call really quickly. I know my
Yes.
professors did that a few times just because they were wanting to make sure that I was not losing sight of what I was wanting to do, but also looking at all the other things that were needed and necessary to make it
Yeah,
a
great.
well-rounded project. So it was definitely rewarding and not easy. And analyzing the data was like, it was a journey in itself. And I probably spent a lot more time on that than I should have. But again, creating that relationship with my professors to say, listen, I understand I'm supposed to be putting this into the program and it's not working. Can you walk me
Yes.
through?
Yeah,
And
well, and given your passion for data now, it sounds like you must have had some good strategies for managing that that data analysis process.
yes, and staying
Yeah,
organized. I think that was also, I probably over like just making folders, dating it,
yeah,
putting it in a sequential, in a manner that made sense to me. So when I
yeah.
was having to recall that or utilize that, it wasn't me scrolling through emails or like
Yes.
spending so much time trying to research. Like I tried, like I said, being super intentional going into it, making sure that it was easy for me to be able to navigate and trying to get things done early. Like I know everyone's life is busy, but I loved the weeks where I was like, okay, this is all done and it's Wednesday. Now I can not stress out the rest of the week or be up
Yeah.
late Sunday. Or I would use that, I would get it done Wednesday and then use that Saturday or Sunday just to proofread and do any edits and then
Yes.
submit. And
Yeah.
that was
This is
also
this
very
is excellent advice. Really excellent. Well, it's been so great to talk to you today. I really appreciate you sharing some of your experiences and just thank you so much. Thanks for being a
absolutely.
great alum for us.
Yes, well, thank you for the opportunity. And I'm always happy to support and provide any resources or insight or even just a pick me up for any students that are in that moment and you're
Oh, I
like,
appreciate that.
yes, of course.